Something's happening here. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. And if you can, maybe in the chat box, let me know where you guys are from, who's here. Hope everybody's doing great. I see 50 people are on, so hopefully we are a go and everyone can hear me. And again, if you can hear me, maybe put something in the chat, let me know. And thank you. We're going to get going in about 5 minutes. Make sure you have your water nearby. We're going to need a roller and a ball. I'm going to make sure that everything is working. It looks like it is, but I'm not sure. I cannot tell. Okay. Hello. My Melt team, you want to just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me okay and I'm on? Sounding loud and clear. Thank you. The first things first. I will be right back. Welcome everyone. Settle yourselves in. We'll get going in about 3 minutes. Again, in the chat box, maybe let us know who you are, where you're from. Are you new to Melt? Are you one of our Melt crew, one of our Melt tribe? Let me know. I've got a good map for you today. For those of you who are on, we've got our Melt team on board with me here also to answer questions if you have questions as you're going along, but I always encourage that you just embody and then at the end ask questions. And of course, if you're new to Melt, I'll talk a little bit about that when we start up. I'm going to wait right until 4 o'clock to give you guys any of the lowdown about what we're doing and what this Restore map is all about today. So you are going to need a Melt soft ball and a Melt roller. And if you don't have these products in today's class, it'll be a little bit tough for you to do because we will be doing some of the basic compression techniques and we're going to be hitting some precarious areas of the body where gliding and shearing is very unique, which is on your shins. So you're going to need the roller if you don't have one. That'll be a little bit tough for you to do. We're going to get going in about 2 minutes. So again, kind of spread out your nice space, have a nice open space for yourself. And if you have some water nearby, you might want to take some water occasionally. This is a pretty big map we're going to tackle today. And I'm shooting this on my iPhone, so I love seeing that there's already conversations coming up. Not that I can see any of it from here, but again, we have our Melt team who is there to answer questions. Again, put in the chat box where you're from. If you're brand new to Melt, if you are a seasoned Melter, love to know who is on board to give this restorative class a shot. Yeah. Take a little water in before we get going. Hey everybody, welcome to the class. We've got an hour-long class. I'm Sue Hitzman. I am the creator of the MELT method, coming to you from Florida today. Today's map is kind of, I would call this one of my favorite MELT maps, or something that really helped me out. Last week, I got sick, and I loved one of my friends said, "You get sick?" I'm like, I am human after all. Yes, I am a melter, but I do get sick sometimes. And whatever it's called now, the common cold, the flu, Omicron, which to me is short for, oh my God, I got a cold. So I had 3 days of not feeling great. And it started out with just kind of feeling a little bit fatigued and maybe a little bit of chest congestion. And then on day 1, when I woke up, I had head congestion. So I do what I would recommend to all of my melters is to help your autonomic nervous system restore balance. And that's really what the MELT method is all about. We are addressing neurological instability and trying to boost and support our body's natural repair processes by way of doing some subtle body techniques, both using the ball and the roller, to rehydrate our connective tissue, to restore the fluid perfusion of our connective tissue system, because our nervous system lives in the fascial system. So to be able to support my immune health, which is also living in the fascial system, and to help my autonomic nervous system restore my calm in my body, I melted about an hour before I went to bed. And the MELT map that I'm going to teach you today is the one that really helped me out with the symptoms that I had. So what were my symptoms? Well, it started out with massive head congestion. And at night before I went to bed, my legs were so achy. And part of that is just from the fatigue of sitting, right? Because when you're sick, you sit, so your whole back line gets a little bit messed up. But it creates this weird contraction in your legs when your body is fatigued like that. So I would get these awful contractures in my leg. So I would melt, because where is our repair processes dominant? Is when we sleep. So if you are congested, anybody knows you have a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, and I know that cellular repair is dominant when I sleep. So about an hour before I go to bed, this was the MELT map that I did, and what was profound for me was that head congestion dropped right out. My nose was running, but then just before I went to bed, it just helped me to fall asleep a little faster, and I definitely got a restful night's sleep. 3 days later, doing this MELT map 3 days in a row, I felt a whole lot better and got back to my work day. So whether you have illness or not, this MELT map is really going to work on 2 aspects of our autonomic functions. Part of it is the rooted core, which is one of the stability aspects of our body. So we are going to be working on the shins and the front thigh, and I'm going to show you some of these creative ways to really ease pressure in, especially when you are fatigued, to get yourself moving. Now, this is an hour map, and you could break this up into pieces, but this was again the one that really helped me out the most. So we always do some assessments before we do our treatment, and we're actually going to do 3 assessments today to get ourselves started. And one of the more important ones is actually called rib length assess. And a lot of times what people don't realize is when you're sick, you're kind of curling your body over, but your fascial system around the torso, where your lungs are, gets impacted. So we actually are losing the expansion of respiration through the neuromyofascial channel. So I'm going to give you some of those techniques to help restore that. And remember, at any point while we're doing this, just grab a little bit of water if you need it. Just take a sip at any point, and let's keep going. So let's start with a basic movement assessment. We're going to do a nice seated upright posture, and we're going to bring our elbows and our palms together. And once you've got your arms in this position, just take a breath into your back and just notice the expansion of your breath or not. Just notice what you feel in your back. And then move your wrists around. Notice if there's any tension in your wrist to move, if you're feeling any clicking or stiffness. And then drop your hands back and look at the angle of your hands. Ideally, your wrists make a relative letter T. But as you drop your hands back, if you feel like your fingers are coiling back, that's a sign of that accumulative stress living in your arm lines that could contribute to some upper body tension and stress, which we want to eliminate. Now, we could also take our ball and we could also assess our grip. And grip is neurological. So squeeze the ball in one hand. Give it a scale of 1 to 10, what's the strength of your grip, and then go over to the other side. And just do that a couple of times. And I want you to notice 3 things. 1, does your grip feel balanced from left to right or not? Second is, do you feel like you've got a lot of forearm tension? Are you feeling a lot of contracture in your forearm muscles to squeeze the ball? And the third is, you feel like your knuckles get a little bit tight to curl over the ball, okay? So try to remember what you feel with that. Set that ball aside, and we're gonna also do a quick body scan assess. We're gonna evaluate ourselves for the 4 common imbalances that many of us just naturally possess from day to day. And definitely when you're sick, you really wanna key into these. So just let your body relax on the floor and just take a nice slow inhalation, noticing how your body expands when you breathe in. And then as you exhale, notice how your body comes back to the midline. It just kind of relaxes back in. I want you to use your body sense and scan your masses and spaces. So those of you who are new, masses, those are the areas touching the ground. Spaces are the areas of your body off the floor. And some of the common mishaps that occur when our neuromyofascial channel, our neural core, comes out of balance, our autonomic nervous system is struggling to find our center, there's 4 common imbalances you might feel. So the first is in your upper body. Notice if you're feeling most or all of your back weight way up here on the upper part of your back. You might even feel like your shoulder blades are actually digging into the ground, feeling more weight on the shoulder girdle. But as you use your body sense and you scan down your body, instead of the mid-rib wall in this region below the shoulder blades, ideally this is nice and weighted to the ground. What I want you to key into is if you feel like you've got a high tensional lift in your mid-back, well above the belly button, you could even put your finger in your belly button and just sort of notice that tensional lift. If our diaphragm's got a lot of accumulative stress, you're gonna feel that high tension. In your pelvis, notice where you feel the weight of your pelvis. Are you feeling like you're lying on your tailbone, or are you feeling 2 evenly weighted butt cheeks? If you feel like you got your tailbone really digging into the floor, make another note. That's another common imbalance. And the back of your thigh masses, ideally those are weighted to the ground. Notice if the back of your thighs feel off the floor on one or both sides. Okay, so just remember, if you're feeling lots of weight on your shoulder blades, high tensional lift in your mid-back, tailbone's really pronounced to the ground, or the back of thigh masses feel off the floor. Just make a note if you're feeling any of those things. And then we're also going to take 2 other quick ones here. Turn your head left and right to assess your ability to turn your head. When we're sick, sometimes we really get a stiff neck. And again, even if you don't have illness, if you feel like you have limited range to either side or pain to turn your head, make a note of that. And when you bring your head back to center, one more thing to notice here, divide yourself into a left and a right half from ear to heel. Do you feel balanced from left to right? Or does it feel like one entire side of your body is more weighted to the ground, or one leg feels longer? And if you're feeling that, all of that accumulative stress altering your neural core efficiency is altering your autopilot, your autonomic nervous system's ability to stabilize you. So roll on your side, come on up to sitting. And we're gonna go into another assessment, which is called a rib length assess. So again, really taking some time to notice where we're at so that we can really reevaluate what kind of changes we can make with the session today, because we're doing a lot of stuff today. So bottom of the shoulder blades, those should be on your body side of the roller. So if I wrap my arm around, I feel the bottom of my shoulder blades are here. I'm gonna lift my hips for a second, tuck my pelvis under, and I'm just gonna take a breath in here and do rib length. So without moving my neck or my low back, I'm just gonna extend my chest over. I'm gonna breathe into my chest, noticing for any tightness, just remember what it feels like. We'll come back and reassess. Exhaling, coming back to flexion. Just try it again. Just notice if you've got ease to extend or not. And then side bend your ribs to the right. Breathe into the left side of your body. And then coming back through the midline and side bending the opposite way. Same thing, breathing in, noticing for tension. Perhaps side bend each way one more time and just notice, do you side bend evenly to each side, or you feel you go more left or more right? Okay, so all of those are just, again, ways for you to build awareness so that you can help your autonomic system function more efficiently. So we're gonna take this ball in our hands at the base of our hands, and we're gonna curl our hands over, compress the ball, and we're gonna begin with a move called gliding. So all a glide is containing a consistent pressure at the base of the hand and running that ball back and forth. So you see I keep my knuckles nice and tight, and I just glide. So listen to this language again. If you're new to Melt, gliding is a preparatory technique. It's also a way for you to explore your body for areas of sensitivity. You might find when you are sick, your thumbs are awfully tender, part of the sinus region of your hands. So just notice what you feel. And then let's bring the ball to the thumb pad. You're going to compress the ball. And now we're going to try a shear. So pinning the skin and creating some small, tiny movements with our hands. The ball's really staying in one spot. And this is called a direct shear. Just kind of opening up some fluid flow, kind of like working fluid into a sponge. We could also compress and wiggle our thumbs around. Again, just kind of waking the tissue up. And one of the things about shearing is that once we do a shear, we just compress and wait. Give the tissue a moment to adapt. And then we're going to let it go and we're going to rinse. So we're going to take the ball from the back of the fingers, from the base of the fingers to the tip of the fingers. And we're just going to rinse. Now as I'm going down my hand that's on the floor, I'm going up the wrist of the hand that's treating my bottom hand right now, right? So I'm going up the top hand, down the hand that's on the floor. And again, I'm going down my fingers. This is called finger rinsing. So we're just going to take it to the fingers. And you know, your hands are so critical to just mobility of sinuses. So we really can actually help our cervical spine and our sinuses just by working on our hands. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, rinsing it through. Now, if you had time, one of the things that I do every day is a foot treatment. And definitely the foot treatment, when I did it in the morning, my nose would drain out. So I really found that very valuable to do a foot treatment, and you can do that before or after this treatment. And then the last technique we're doing here, we're going to go up the forearms. So just taking the ball and pushing that fluid flow up the forearms. Because again, we're just trying to wake up some of the fluid flow in our arm lines because we're going to be using our upper body to work on our lower body. And in fact, I worked a lot on my lower body when I was sick because again, my legs were just crampy and didn't feel good. Let's do that same thing on the other side, rinsing through. Again, just breathing. And then last technique is friction. And friction is, again, a great way to just stimulate your lymphatic system, the system that is part of your immune function. So just drawing the fluid flow from fascia to lymph, just giving it that little extra support. Nice breath in and out. Okay, so we're not going to reassess just yet. I just want you to go ahead and set that ball aside. But now that we've got some movement in our hands, we're going to get going on our lower body. So you're going to take your roller and we're going to come on up. And one of the unique areas we're going to work on is the shin. And the shin, compared to anywhere else in the body, has a very unique way to work on it because you got a lot of blood vessels and nerves between the bones. So I'm going to bring that roller right under my kneecap. This is called the tibial plateau. It's the tendon that attaches your quadriceps down towards the lower leg. And all I'm doing like a cat, I'm just sort of shifting my body back and forth a few times. Now we want to really get in and get out of this position. So you're going to take your left ankle, cross it over your right ankle. You're going to shift your body over to the right side. And as soon as your feet come off the ground, I want you to start to flex and point or make circles with your ankle. And very slowly, we're going to move that roller down our shins. So what I want you to see here is that my body is staying in the same spot. Though my knees are moving forward, my hips are staying back. I don't have any more pressure on my hands than I did when I start. But what I want you to see is that I'm constantly in motion, whereas every other region of the body, we glide, we shear, we pause. Here, we got to get in and get out. So we're going to slowly work our way down. And once I get down near that lower part of my shin towards my ankle, I'm going to lift up my hips and I'm going to do a direct shear by just twisting back and forth. So sort of pinning the skin and just slowly creeping back up the front of the shin. And then I'm going to try it on the other side. Same thing. So I bring my left shin back to the roller, right ankle crosses. I'm going to shift my hips over to that left side. As soon as my foot comes up, I'm in action. Nice and slow, I'm flexing and pointing my ankle. And then nice and slow, I just start to work my way down. Now remember, you got your entire body weight on the roller, so a lot of pressure in this area. And again, lots of neural signaling you'll change. Really helps also with low back pain. This is one of these areas, if you can really learn to master, really helps with back pain. Okay, so again, once I get near my ankle, I lift my hips up and I create that little wiggle back and forth. Now in Melt On Demand, there are tutorials of these, so you guys who aren't really familiar with these, Melt On Demand is a great place to go to learn really the fine details of this technique. Okay, so now we're going to rinse. So I'm going to go back over to my right side. I'm going to cross my left ankle over. I'm going to shift 3 times. I'm going to work down the outer part of my front thigh, and then I'm going to lift my hips up and I'm going to come up the front. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to shift my hips over. I go down the out part of my front thigh and my front shin, and then back up. And then one more time, down the outside, and then back up the front. I'm going to do that same thing over on the other side, crossing my ankles, shifting my hips. I go down the tibialis anterior. This is part of the spiral line, coming up the front line. I go down the spiral line. I come on back up the front. One more time. Now, if you're doing this right, it's like a typewriter carriage. You're slowly working your way over to the side of the roller. That's how you know that you've done it right. Okay, so now set the roller in front of you, and we're going to go onto the front thigh. Now, what we're going to do here, though, is 2 gliding passes. So how do you do a gliding pass with no shear? I'm going to keep my tail up, core engaged. I'm going to use my feet. Look at my feet stay on the ground. And I'm going to start gliding. And what I want you to really pick up here first, if you guys again are new, is that a glide is a small local compression technique. So notice that I'm not ironing myself like a shirt, okay? You see a lot of people doing stuff like this. We're gonna keep ourselves in one small local area, but watch what happens. I'm gonna shift my hips over to the left side, so I'm a little more on the inside of my right leg, outside of my left. I'm gonna nice and slowly move back to the middle, and I'm gonna shift my hips over to the right side. Now, if I've done that well, when I come back to the center, the roller's already up a little bit further in my thighs. I'm just going to inch my arms back, shift myself over to the left and glide, coming back to the middle, shifting over to the right side. If you're feeling like you're going over a speed bump, okay, not uncommon. This area of the thigh, because those muscles are so separate that we've got a lot of compartments here, you're going to kind of ripple over the actual structures of your muscles. But again, the more you keep your core engaged and keep your pressure to the foot side of the roller as you travel up, the less of that clunking you're going to feel. So I'm coming all the way up. Take a look at where I've gone now, right? I'm almost up at the front of my pubic bone. Just before I hit my pubic bone, I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to walk my body all the way back, and I'm going to start all over again. I'm going to do a little glide. So when my legs were so achy, when I was sick, this was, pretty intense. That doesn't feel nearly like this today. It actually feels really good to do. But I spent 2, even 3 rinsing passes, or gliding passes, before I continued on and worked on other things. So I just, again, look at how when I shift, and then I come to the middle and shift, the roller just naturally moves up my legs. And so it's a nice way to just prepare, and again, explore your body for areas that don't feel so great. Okay, so one more time. This time we're gonna add the shearing. So I'm gonna walk myself up. Again, my tail's gonna be high, right above the knee. I'm gonna start with my glide here. And I'm just going to pause, and I'm going to bend and straighten one of my knees 2 or 3 times, nice and slow. So I'm pinning the skin and contracting muscle. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Right? So if I compress an interface of muscle and contract it, that's how you can create an internal shear indirectly. Now, I could also do a direct shear. I could just pin my skin and rotate my legs. Or I could shift my body weight back and forth. And again, if you're feeling like you're going over a speed bump here, make it a little smaller and really use your core. And then pause, walk yourself backward a little bit so that the roller comes up a little. Do a little glide right into the front of the thigh. Same thing, find a spot that you can just maintain pressure on. Bend and straighten one of your knees. Now again, take a look at how I keep my shoulders nice and wide. My core is engaged, right? I'm not getting sloppy and letting my body come down, right? I don't want to put that pressure up into my shoulders. I'm not looking to get tension to lose tension, right? So body is up. Again, I could roll my thighs in and out, or I could pin my skin and I could shift. So whichever one feels good for you is the one I want you to do. You could do 1, 2, or all 3. Same thing, we're going to pause here for a second. We're going to move ourselves up just a little bit more. And here, I'm going to actually work a little bit more directly onto the outer part of my front thigh. I'm going to stay on my front thigh, but watch what I'm going to do. Back hand, I'm going to turn it in. Front hand's going to come to the ground. I'm going to bring my legs together, and I'm just going to turn myself slightly forward. So notice that I'm not perfectly on my side. I stay forward. But here, the trick of it is keep your knees soft. Just soften your knees. I know it's not going to feel great, but it really will make some impact to just help for pelvic stability. You guys have low back issues, any kind of low back pain. This is a really great area to work on. Again, if you're sick, that sensitivity that you have, that contractility, it'll really help with that. Alters that neural signaling. Stay here for a second. Squeeze your knees together, really slow. Bend and straighten your knee on this angle. I hope that's okay for everybody. You could also keep your legs nice and soft, knees soft. You could roll your body forward and back. Or the way I like to do this one is I pin my skin and I just shift my hips. And then same thing, I'm just gonna pause. I'm gonna come on back to the center. Again, I'm just gonna glide for a second. Again, check in with your body. Turn that front hand backwards. Back hand goes to the ground. Again, you're gonna kind of tip, soften your knees, and you're just gonna glide. So again, notice that I'm not on my outer thigh. I'm not on my IT band. I'm on my rectus femoris, my big muscles of my thigh. Again, I'm trying to find that area I wanna work on. I get smaller and smaller. I squeeze my knees together. Nice and slow, I just bend and straighten my knee a couple of times. Again, I could also roll my body a little forward and back. Or again, leaning into it a little bit, I use my arms and I just shift my hips left, right. And then I'm going to pause there for a moment and then come on off the roller. Okay, so now we're going to move into our inner thigh. Okay, so you're going to come on down onto your side, and the way to do inner thigh gliding and shearing, be in a perfect side lying pose, take the head side of the roller, angle it out ahead of you, and then without falling forward, just walk your top leg atop the roller so that the side of your knee literally looks like it's on top of the roller. Rest your head down, and then you're just gonna fall forward. Pause here for a second. Notice that the roller came up your thigh a little bit. Keep your knee soft, use your top hand. Push yourself back a little bit, but as you do, feel like you're trying to compress more to the curved top side of the roller. So as I go forward, I'm more top of the roller. As I come back, I'm kind of compressing more into the foot side of the roller. So the secret of a good glide is consistent pressure. So if I actively participate in maintaining pressure, and I can do this a number of ways, I could actively participate in the compression, or I could use my foot and my hand and I could lighten up my leg weight by 90%, right? So if it's really intense, just lighten up the weight with your footing and then slowly ease the pressure back in. Find a spot you can tolerate the pressure, pause for a moment, nice slow shearing. So again, you can bend and straighten your knee. You don't want to contract or move so big that the muscle actually repels the pressure that you're maintaining. You can also keep your knee soft and just lift and lower your leg, kind of rolling the thigh over the roller. Or my favorite way to do this is I set my foot to the ground, I pin the skin, and I create a twisting action. Doesn't need to be fast. You're not trying to light a fire with 2 sticks or anything. Just twisting and pinning the skin to create that shear effect. And then just let the leg relax for a moment. Nice focused breath. And then move the roller up to your middle thigh, just an inch, and then start all over again. So stop and think what we just did in our shin, right? When we did gliding and shearing, when we sheared the whole shin and then we rinsed it, right? So we didn't really do much of a glide at all, right? So there's certain areas of the body where we can kind of just get in and get out. Here, we really want to take our time. This is part of the rooted core. So same thing, I'm exploring my body for areas of sensitivity. I'm not trying to go too deep, too fast. I'm not trying to cause pain. I just want to sense what I feel. Meet a barrier, so those areas that are sensitive, don't land right on them. And then start your shear again, bending and straightening the knee. Or again, keeping your muscles nice and relaxed. You could just lift and lower the leg, rolling the thigh over the roller. Or you could set your toes down to the ground, pin the skin, and create the twisting action. And then same thing, I'll just kind of pause here for a moment, give the tissue a moment to adapt. And then let's go ahead and flip on over the other side. Now, on your own, when you're at home, after you've practiced this with me, you could pick 3, 4, even 5 spots on your inner thigh, okay? So again, you're gonna start perfectly side lying. Roller's gonna angle out ahead of you to get that proper angle of the leg. Don't fall forward. Just drop your knee atop the roller, okay? Rest your head down, and again, fall forward. Okay, feel where the pressure is on top of the roller. Soften your knee. As you come back a little bit, you're more toward the curved side of the top of the roller, just off the top. So again, I go top of the roller, curved side of the roller. I kind of imagine like a violinist who's using their bow and how they kind of carve over the strings. So that's kind of what I want you to think of, is you're sort of carving out a groove by maintaining your pressure in one local area.
And again, if you can find an area, you can get smaller and smaller and not inflict pain. So again, we're just trying to meet those barriers, meet those areas of sensitivity. And then same thing, bending and straightening my knee a few times. Again, I could also keep my knee soft, lifting and lowering the leg, rolling the leg over the roller, right? Pinning the skin with that roll. Or setting my toes down, creating more of a cross friction. And if it feels to you like this is tough, sometimes if you just put your hand on the roller, it seems to help people really find the control of the motion, right? So I'm not like, getting really fast about it. I'm really pinning and twisting. And then same thing, I want to wait. Nice focused breath. And we're going to pick one more spot. So remember, again, when you're at home, you're doing this on your own, maybe you're going to pick 3, 4, 5 spots on your inner thigh. You can work all the way up to your pubic bone. And listen, if you have low back pain, it's a great thing to do is to work on the inner thigh. It's one of these missing regions of our body that a lot of us just go unaware that the accumulative stress in our rooted core in the inner regions of our body are what are causing the back pain, the hip instability. So we really want to open this area up. So same thing, I'm going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm going to find a spot I want to work on. I'm going to bend and straighten my knee a few times. Or I'm going to lift and lower my leg. Or again, I can set my toes down, pin the skin, and create that twisting action. And then same thing, I'm just going to kind of pause here, give the tissue a nice moment to adapt. Okay, so now go ahead and lie on your back. Now, another area when you are sick, I was, not really moving around. I could go to the gym, didn't want to do anything. So the back of the body pays the price. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that roller nice and high onto the back of my thighs. And I'm going to go ahead and let the roller go. And I'm going to give you 2 options on your shearing. You could either maintain your pressure, imagine pinning the skin and twisting the flesh around the thighs. If you feel that there's pressure on your low back, you've got 2 options here. You could either take your hands and tuck them underneath your butt cheeks, which will give you a little bit more support in the low back by supporting your pelvis, or the way I like to do this is putting one foot on the ground and really working through the twisting action. So what I want you to feel is that you are not rubbing your leg up against the roller. You are pinning your skin between your thigh bone and the roller surface, and you're twisting the flesh on the underlying surface of your skin. So your skin's really not what's getting the impact here. Same thing, you're just going to soften that leg. Maybe you go over to the other side, same thing. Now again, on your own, perhaps you'll do 2, 3, 4 spots, right? It's up to you. We're going to do 2 here. Same thing, if that's troublesome or you couldn't do that one, you could always do very similar to what we did when we were on the inner thigh, kind of rolling the leg over the roller. You could pin the skin and just create a subtle bit of movement. Remember, meet your body where you're at, right? Whatever works for you is where you want to start. You always build yourself up to self-care. Okay, so just pick any spot in the middle of your thighs. Doesn't matter, I'm gonna go right in the middle of my thighs. I always say it's where I'd imagine cellulite to be on anybody else's legs but mine, right? And again, if you've been sitting a lot over this last year, I think a lot of people have been sitting and you're realizing you're starting to feel different in your body. You're not performing as well as you did. Maybe you're gaining weight, maybe your muscle mass has depleted. So, we want to get back to this. And what a great way to do it is to restore our autonomic functions first. Right? So same thing, pinning the skin and twisting. So the other thing I want you to notice is just become aware. Is it sensitive in the back of your legs? And if it is, why not try this daily and see if you can minimize the sensitivity toward pain, toward pressure, right? So if pressure, my brain is saying, hey, that's painful, I want to ease back my pressure, work a little bit less, and work my way into compression. Now again, I could also just take my legs and again, roll them. And then same thing, I'm going to pause here for a second. I'm going to move that roller down onto my calves. I'm going to cross one ankle over the other, and I'm going to start my glide. Now, in my calves, I found that my calves were super sensitive while I was sick. And a lot of that is the fluid, the venous return, the blood flow, right? And when we're sick, our body is struggling to just, kind of move toxins out of our body. So this was a real nice area for me to work on. And so what I would do is very similar to the front thigh. I do a little gliding in one area, kind of turning my calf in as I glide or turning my calf out. I'd pause on a spot, I create a little bit of my shear, so maintaining my pressure and either contracting the muscle by moving a joint on the opposite side of the roller, that's an indirect shear, or keeping my ankle fully relaxed. And remember, we had that rolling action that we did? Or we could kind of use our top leg, pin the skin, and more shift the leg, kind of like a windshield wiper back and forth. There's the twisting of the flesh, that's cross friction. Same thing, just pause. And I'm going to move that roller down a little bit lower on my calf, and same thing. Now again, for those of you guys who have low back pain, really key into the lower part of the calf. If the lower part of your calf is really sensitive, this is one of these sneaky culprits to low back pain. If our pelvis has instability, the lower leg, the fascia of the lower leg can get very stiff, and it helps to mediate the balance when we stand up of the pelvic positioning. So if it's really sensitive, it can't quite do its job. So if we just, again, explore the tissue, we prepare it, we find one of those barriers, we edge up against it and we shear, we can create some of that fluid perfusion throughout the body, and that can help again with neural signaling, that can help with better balance, it helps with mobility, just makes you feel better, right? Again, I could roll my body over the roller, or I could pin the skin and I could just subtly shift it left to right. Pause there for a second. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm kind of going belly of the calf when I start. Secret of the calf glide. Keep your ankle relaxed, okay? There's this tendency to flex your foot as you do it. You want to relax. Now, here's another tip. If you felt like, seriously, you had like a lot of congestion in your head and lying down, you're like, Sue, I couldn't take it. You could come up this way. You could put pillows behind your back, a bolster, right? You could keep your body angled, or if just lying flat on your back is difficult, just bring your body up and elevate it. Perfectly fine. The one thing that we don't want to do is lean forward, right? So I wouldn't want to be in a body position like this to do this work, because what are you doing? You're causing tension on the area you're trying to compress. If you cause tension to something, you're not going to get very deep into it. So again, find an area you want to work on. Create your shear. Two ways to shear, direct and indirect. So an indirect shear is contracting muscles against a mechanical force interface, right? So putting pressure on the roller and moving my joint. That's going to contract those muscles. I could also do a direct shear. I could roll my body part over the roller. Or again, I kind of pin the skin and create that twisting action. And again, just slowly breathe in and out. Give your body some oxygen, right? Pause there for a moment, take a focused breath. That's intentionally breathing right into the area you're compressing. Move that roller down just a little bit more, crossing the ankle again, and going through that same treatment, same gliding. Now again, take a look at how I'm gliding, right? I keep my ankle relaxed, and it's very similar to inner thigh. When I bend my knee, I'm more curved side of the roller. When I straighten my leg, I'm more top of the roller. So again, kind of like a violin string, I'm keeping my pressure constant. That's really the secret of a good glide. Keep it small and local. Prepare just a small local region of sensory nerves and fascia. Wait there, and then shear, flexing and pointing the ankle, or you could make U-shaped motions. We could roll the leg a little left and right. Or we could kind of pin the skin and create that twisting. And then pause there for a moment, give the tissue a moment to adapt. We're not going to rinse just yet. We're going to keep all that fluid flow in our legs, and we're going to do one of my favorite moves called knee knockers, because again, what I found was I was sitting a lot for 3 days, and I just felt like my butt got flat from that kind of resting position. Okay, so I'm going to put the roller right in between my knees. You could also be using a performance roller. So I'm going to bring that roller, it's closer to my knees than it is my hips. I'm going to find my solid footing, ball of my big toe, the outside of my foot, and my heel. I'm going to land my foot properly right onto the ground, and I'm going to squeeze the roller with my thighs, and that's going to activate the rooted core. But what I want you to notice is when you squeeze your knees toward the roller, does your back go flat? And if the answer is yes, just check with me. I'm not going to flatten my low back. I'm going to keep my lumbar spine neutral. That is not an invitation to lift your ribs right now. I'm still just squeezing the roller. Now I want to find the ball of my big toe, the outside of my foot, and my heel, and squeeze. right? So that's gonna lock in that chain of events. Arms can stay to the ground. You're gonna take a breath in, focus on keeping your ribs out of this movement, and just slowly lift your hips off the ground. Now, once you're here to clean up this pose, if I invite you to think about sliding your heels away from your torso, notice that my body just looks like it kind of went north a little bit. That's going to pin your spine a little bit more to the ground. Again, I'm going to squeeze my roller with my knees, and to really get the extension that I'm looking for, I'm going to think about almost corkscrewing my knees outward, like my thighs are externally rotating. I'm almost feeling like I'm squeezing more under the roller. I've lost the crease in the front of my thighs. And once I'm here, I'm just going to hold that position. And if I'm doing this right, where I get the work is right here, right in my lower glutes. So again, lower fibers of glutes, squeezing that roller. And then nice and slow, I'm going to bring my hips back down. Second my hips tap, I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to take a breath in. Again, keying into my mid-rib wall, staying out of the movement. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my hips. I'm going to pause, making sure that my ribs are nice and weighted, right? So I've got this nice scooped back. Engaging that roller with my knees. Now again, I'm going to think about reaching my knees over my toes, squeezing under the roller, activating that lower fibers of glutes. Wake them up. And then nice and slow as I come down, what I kind of think of is like my thighs are internally rotating and I'm getting more pressure toward the top of my roller as I come down. We're going to do that 2 more times. So again, push into your feet to start, ribs stay quiet, lifting up the hips, and you're going to pause. Okay, again, think about corkscrewing. Now reach those knees over the toes, lose the crease in the hip, keep those thighs squeezing into that roller. And then nice and slow, bringing it all the way down. Whew, I can really feel that one. One more time, here we go. Taking a breath in. Again, pushing into your feet, ribs stay quiet, lifting the hips. You're going to pause for a second, and then again, really think it's like you're trying to squeeze under the roller. Squeeze that roller, energize those knees over the toes. And now no pause, here comes a pattern. So instead of reintegrating, repatterning a motion. So I'm going to come down feeling like I'm squeezing to the top of the roller. I'm going to come up, clearing out the crease of my thigh, squeezing to the bottom of the roller. Coming down, just imagine it's an idea more than a thing, top of the roller. Lifting up, squeezing to the bottom of the roller. Coming down, squeezing to the top, lifting up, squeezing at the bottom. One more time, coming down, squeezing more to the top. And one more time, coming up, squeezing at the bottom. Holding here, let's just get 4 little tiny pulses, really lifting the hips, keeping those ribs quiet. 1, 2, 3, one more time, hold on, 4, and then nice and slow, releasing it all of the way down. Okay, so now roll on your side, come on up to sitting. Now we're gonna rinse. So we're gonna start with our calves. You're gonna put your roller out ahead of you, bring your calf onto the roller, and we're gonna go up the inside of your calf, and then turn your toes up. We're gonna come down the back side. So up the front, down the back. Up the front, down the back. One more time, you're gonna go up the front, pause there for a second, move that roller up towards your inner thigh, and do the same thing. Up the inside, down the back. Up the inside, down the back. And can you see how I kind of twist my flesh? I'm kind of kicking my leg to the midline, and then I let it come out. One more time. Twisting up, and then coming on back down. Okay, try that on the other side, same thing. So again, I'm just gonna start with the roller at my ankle. I'm gonna turn away. Notice that I just kind of let my butt drag onto the floor as I go through this motion. Up the inside, down the back, up the inside, down the back. One more time, up the inside. Pause there for a second. Move the roller to your inner thigh, and same thing. Up the inside, down the back. Up the inside, down the back. 2 more. Up the inside, down the back. One more time. Up the inside, and down the back. Okay, so now let's add a little bit of upper body hydration. So get a sense of what we're doing. We're just kind of juicing the body up, and one of the techniques we're going to be doing today is a sternal decompress. So you're going to take your roller right behind your mid-back, doesn't matter where you're going to start, point the elbows to the sky, lift up your hips, keep your head relaxed in your arms, okay, so really check in here, and just move your knees on top of your ankles. That roller should naturally just come up towards your upper back. Once you're here, we're going to start our glide. So remember what I've said now 4 or 5 times. Gliding, small, local compression technique. So about the size of the heel of your hand anywhere in your body when you're gliding, it's about that big. okay? So as I'm gliding, I'm going over 1 or 2 vertebrae, really keeping it small. If you're doing this right, the roller starts to move a little bit. You just walk your feet back. But once you get your glide going, think about letting your hips sink a little bit so that you're feeling more pressure to the curved side of the roller. Breathing in, breathing out, finding one of those vertebrae you feel like you can just stop on. Tuck your pelvis, set your tucked pelvis down to the ground. Curl your ribs forward without yanking on your neck. So I almost want you to feel like you're pushing your feet into the floor to pin that vertebra to the roller. And you're going to do a slight tipping action, right, left. And then we're going to pause here for a moment. Nice breath in and out. Reset your feet. Lift up your hips, push into your feet, move that roller down just a little bit, bring it more to the mid-back, and again, start your glide. Now, the lower you are in your back, the more you are in your mid-back, look at how my head, the crown of my head is more to the sky, right? So when we were way up high, we were a little more flat back. Now, we can really be curved. So I don't want you to feel like you have to have pressure pulling on your head. I don't even need my hands on my head, right? So really kind of see how I'm kind of creating this curved surface over curved surface body position. So my pressure is more on the curved side of the roller rather than the top of the roller, right? And again, if I'm doing this well, the roller's kind of backpedaling back a little bit. Again, I'm going to slide my hips into the ground. And same thing, I'm going to create a slight tipping action. So a shear on the spine is really pinning one vertebra and just very small movements trying to open and close the facets above the area you're compressing. That's a shear to the spine. And then we're going to pause here for a second. Let's go on the inside of one of your shoulder blades. I'm going to take my back arm and I'm going to tip it towards you, energizing my arm up. I'm going to lift up my hips. And now what I'm going to do is glide the tip of my scapula, my shoulder blade. And you'll know you're on it because it's probably sensitive. I always imagine it like the tip of Africa. And once I really find the bottom of my shoulder blade, I'm going to try to run up the inside edge of my shoulder blade. And as I'm doing this, slow breaths in and out, bringing some fluid flow between the ribs and the shoulder blade. I'm going to find a spot I want to just pause on. I'm going to set my hip down on that side. I'm going to fan my arm in and out just a couple of times. I'm just going to do one type of shear here because I'm going to work all over the arm and chest. I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to just shift my hips over to the opposite side, and I'm going to roll onto my side. Once I'm here, I'm just going to tip my body back, and using my rib cage, look at how I move my ribs up and down. What am I on? I'm on the outside of my shoulder blade. Now, if you're doing this one right, it's not going to come up near your shoulder. It's going to stay in this local region. If you feel like you've gone up too high, just go ahead and reach and just drop it back down. But again, I really want to stay on the shoulder blade. Best approach on this, again, my ribs are coming up and down. I've kind of changed my gaze more toward the sky. Again, I can find a spot I want to work on, and same thing that I did on the inside of my shoulder blade, I can do that same fanning on the outside of my blade. I'm going to pause here for a second. Nice breath in and out. I'm going to get on the side of my ribs. I'm going to take my arm out ahead of me. I'm going to bring that roller now down below the bra line, both hands on the ground. And now with a little lean forward, instead of being on my shoulder blade, I'm just going to give a quick glide to my ribs. Breathing in, breathing out. Now, if you're doing this one right, that roller is slowly creeping up towards your armpit. Once it does, lift it up, bring it back down, and do another movement. Now, listen, if you are having trouble moving your torso, think more like you're just moving your butt towards your heels. It's another way to go. And again, I'm kind of using this arm that's outstretched in front of me, keeping the pressure off of my shoulder. I could even take this hand and help my body out. Same thing, I'm just going to pause here for a second. Nice breath in and out. And we're just going to flip on over to the other side. We're going to do the same thing on the shoulder blades. So this is an area that to me gets really sticky for a lot of us. So nice area to work on. So again, I've got that roller in my mid-back. I'm going to tip myself onto the other side. I'm going to lift up my hips. And the first thing I want to see if I can feel is the tip of my shoulder blade. So I don't want to lean too far to the side, right? If I go way over here, I'm not going to find it. You really want to stay just slightly off from center. So I don't have pressure on my spine. I got pressure on the blade. And then once I'm there, I see if I can come up the inside edge of the blade. And again, if I find one of those little areas where I feel like I've got a village of gummy bears living in there, I don't keep raking over it. I get smaller. I find an area I can pause on. I set my hip down. I fan my arm in and out. Again, I'm going to pause here for just a second. I'm going to roll over onto my side. And then same thing, lifting and lowering my body. Look at how I kind of come up and down. Again, a little slight arcing motion. And then same thing, I'm going to see if I can just kind of compress into the outer part of my shoulder blade. I'm going to fan my arm in and out. Same thing, I'm just going to pause here for a moment. Nice breath in. I'm going to take my hand away, I'm going to bring that way out ahead of me, and I'm going to bring that roller down. Top hand comes to the ground, and again, I can lean forward on this one. So don't put pressure on your neck, just keep your gaze down. And again, look at how I'm doing this one compared to the outer shoulder blade where I was arcing my ribs. Here I'm either thinking my butt is going towards my heels, or I'm thinking of curling my torso forward and back. Again, if you're doing this right, that roller starts to travel up to the armpit, just bring it on back down, do a second pass. And again, if as you do this slow glide, breathe, just breathe in, and breathe out. And then just pause there for a second. Okay, so we're gonna rinse, and you're just gonna bring that roller towards your mid-back. Hands go behind your head. You're gonna lift up your hips. You're gonna bring that roller up towards your upper back. You're gonna take a breath in. On an exhale, let your hips sink a little bit. Then, with your feet, curl your ribs and push into your feet and move that roller down your back. Reset your feet. Notice that my heels are in front of my knees so that when I come up, I'm bringing my knees right on top of my ankles, no more, no less. Again, I'm going to let my hips sink, and then I'm going to rinse. Right? 2 more times. Resetting the feet, lifting up, taking a breath in, sinking my hips, pushing into my feet, curling my back. 1 more time. Lifting my hips, exhaling, and rinsing through. All right, so now a really technical move. This is a decompression technique called sternal decompress. So the important thing here is just your positioning. The front of your chin, right below your lip, that's gonna be resting at the top of the roller. So you're gonna come on down, and this is a position you wanna get in and get out of as quickly as possible. You don't wanna be here too long. So before you put pressure on your sternum, line yourself up. Again, front of the face is atop the roller. Once you're here, let your body sink into the roller. If you have a tight bra, you definitely want to take that away. Forearms go on the ground, and much like we do when we lie the length of the roller, you're just going to let some gentle rocking happen. And then you're going to come back to a middle point, and this is a technical move. Let your legs relax. You're going to inhale like you're sucking milkshake through a straw. Hold your breath. We're going to retract the head. Chin stays down, and then like a deflating tire, letting your ribs deflate, letting the lungs deflate. Try it 2 more times. Hold your breath, retract your head, and then feel how that exhale in your body weight just pushes the air out. 1 more time. Retract your head. And then go back through the gentle rocking. And then nice and slow, just go ahead and roll yourself onto your side for a moment and just let your body pause there for a minute. Nice breath in and out. Take your time, bring yourself on up. And now we're going to rinse again. So now that you've gotten some fluid flow into the front of the body, now we just want to bring it and circulate it. So again, coming up to your upper back, you're going to rinse down your back. Reset, lift up the hips. Exhale, sink the hips, rinse. 2 more, reset the feet, lift up the hips, and again, sinking the hips and rinse. 1 more. Okay, so one of the techniques that we did is an assessment. Let's do a couple of those assessments now. Let's go ahead and bring that roller right into our mid-back. Hands go behind our head, and just go through rib length. And notice if you can open up your chest a little bit more than when you started. I definitely have some more range. Exhaling, coming back to flexion. Another breath in. Exhale, rib length. Side bend, noticing if you can side bend a little more freely, breathing into the ribs. Exhaling, other side, breathing in, exhaling. And then again, just side bend, just notice if you go a little bit freer on both sides, if you can just move with more ease. Okay, so we've got a couple more things I want to do. This was, again, kind of my finishing touch on this map. I'm going to bring my hips to the end of my roller, nice and slow. I'm going to go ahead and lie the length of the roller, touching the top of your head and the top of the roller. Make sure that your head's landed atop the roller. Hands go down to the floor, feet hip width apart. We're going to start with some gentle rocking. And again, breathe. Think about inhalation and exhalation. Draw your awareness to the fact that you can consciously expand the torso and relax the torso. Coming to a center point, place your hands on the front of your pelvis, and nice and gently, we're just going to tuck and tilt the pelvis. So these techniques, if you're not familiar with them, again, on Melt On Demand, all of these sequences are tutorials breaking down. If you're new, we have this whole introduction to Melt, and you'll learn all of the sequences. The advanced sequences are in the tutorial section as well. Again, trying to focus on what's staying stable, so I'm not pushing into my feet. I'm not allowing my ribs to move. I'm just drawing my attention to the stillness of my body as my pelvis subtly undulates from a tuck to a tilt. Find somewhere in the middle of those two positions where you're not actively tucking or tilting. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Take 3 slightly slower than normal breaths into the front and back of your body. And as you inhale, go ahead and try it. I want you to feel your belly and your chest slowly expand as much as your back body is expanding and descending. And then as you exhale, feel both the chest and the belly come down. Now, if you feel like you catch more breath in your chest, just slow down the breath a little more. And then exhale. Again, slow it down a little bit, breathing in. So feel how that diaphragm, when it contracts, expands the abdomen, puts intra-abdominal pressure. It just adapts, and then as we exhale, everything returns. Hands go to the sides of the ribs, same thing, breathing in with. And then again, exhaling. I like drawing my attention to breathing from the back body, from my spine into the sides. And then exhaling. One more. Okay, one more direction. One hand up onto your collarbones, one hand down to the pubic bone. Breathe a length breath all the way down to your bottom hand. Really feel the breath like a tube goes down between the legs. Your lungs get to fill right up to the top of the collarbones. And then exhale. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, breathing in through the mouth, out through the mouth. At this point, I don't care where you breathe, just breathe. Right? If you're congested, breathe through the mouth. One more. And then both hands on the belly. Let's take a nice 6-sided breath into all regions of our body, like an egg, expanding an egg, all the way out to the edges of the egg. And as we exhale, make your SH, SE, or HA sound. Shh, activate your core reflex. And I want you to feel like you have an egg yolk in there and you're just trying to squeeze the egg yolk until there's no breath left. I want you to stop at the end of your exhale, sensing that hugging action. Now try to inhale and feel yourself let it all go. And then again, shh. This time, take an inhale. Let your natural exhale initiate the breath. Feel and follow that contraction. Take your arms up in the air. Let's just get a little shoulder blade gliding. Angling the arms closer towards your legs rather than right over your shoulders. And then allowing the shoulder girdle to go heavy, let's just make 4 slow arm circles. Try to keep your arms above the level of your torso, just to expand some of that fluid flow throughout the body. On this last one, as the arms come around the side, pass that T angle of your arms and angle your arms down just a little bit lower. reach the fingers away from one another, almost like you're trying to hug a big redwood tree. So a nice arcing, elbows are kind of pointed to the ground, but really energizing the arms without locking out a joint. And then nice and slow, just flex and extend your wrists. Get some of that neural flossing. Again, slow breaths in and out on your exhale. Find your core in your mind. Feel the hugging action that may actually intensify what you feel in your arms. And then hold the arms out there, breath in and breath out. Setting the hands down to the ground, nice gentle rocking. And as you do, energize your arms away from you as you rock away and feel that tension will pull down the arms as you breathe. And then when you're ready, straighten out one of your legs, slide on off the roller, come off your pelvis, your ribs, and then your head. Take your roller away, bend your knees, and you're gonna bring that roller right behind the base of your skull. Now, where's the base of my skull? It's not on my neck, okay? So if I reach up and I kind of feel my hairline is on the front curved side of the roller. So I'm feeling more pressure here than on top of the roller. I'm gonna keep my nose slightly tipped up to the sky, and I'm slowly gonna turn my head left and right. And then I'm gonna tip my head towards you. I'm gonna pause here for a second. I'm gonna create a couple of small circles with my head slightly off to the side. And then I'm going to pause here. I'm going to outreach my arm and my leg. I'm going to come further onto what I call my half back pose. I'm going to create that small circle. Or head turns. Now remember, what's a shear? I'm pinning my skin. I'm not rubbing my hair up against that roller, right? I'm pinning the skin to create that shear effect. I'm going to pause here for a moment. I'm going to turn on my side and I'm going to lift my head. I'm going to slide that roller back and I'm going to get right on my jaw. And the best way to do this is to nod your nose down a little bit and feel like you have more pressure coming into the angled side of the roller. You'll know you have the roller in the right place. Just go ya, ya. You'll feel that shifting of the jaw. And then same thing, give me some small circles. And again, we're just going to pause here for a moment. Nice breath in and out. We're going to go on the temple. So again, I'm going to nod my head down, placing my temple on the roller. Same thing, small circles. Now this face treatment, this one's great. I would take my time and really kind of revel in this technique. I might even take 10 minutes throughout my entire face. But again, we're in those last few minutes of class. So we're just going to do a nice little quick treatment here. I'm going to come back to my jaw, same thing, creating those small circles. Again, I could just pause and ya, ya. And then I'm just going to let my head drop back, and I'm just going to create some small circles right behind my ear. Pause. You're going to flip on over the other side. I'm just going to spin myself around so you can still see what I'm doing here. So same thing. I'm going to start with the roller right at the center of the back of my head, just making sure I've got the roller in the right place. Tipping my head a little bit towards you. I'm going to create some small circles here. Again, just pausing for a moment. Dropping my arm and my leg out. Small circles. And again, when you're on your own, maybe you're taking 30 seconds to a minute on each point instead of this quick 10-second treatment. Same thing, you'll pause. Nice breath in and out. I'm going to roll on my side, again, sliding that roller back, placing my jaw on the roller, outreaching my arm so I don't have pressure on my shoulder. Again, how do I know I've got my roller in the right place? Yeah. I just open my jaw for an indirect shear. Or again, small circles for a direct. I can already feel my sinuses are draining. Pause. Again, I'm going to just tip my head down, going right to my temple. Small circles. Again, I'm going to pause. I'm going to come back to the jaw. Same thing, some small circles. Again, I could just pause here. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to drop my head back a little bit. Same thing, create some small circles here. Pausing. Coming into that flat back pose, again, keeping that roller right at the base of my skull. I like creating little infinity signs, really pulling some fluid flow back into those spinal nodes, really opening up, helping my immune system so that I drain some of the toxins out of my body. I like this pressure here. It really helps me with the sinus congestion that I had. I wait, and then I decompress. I bring the roller to the center of the back of my head. I take a breath in. On an exhale, I nod my nose down. Take a breath in. Exhale, keep your pressure constant. Lift your chin back up. Again, nice slow traction. So a release technique is not releasing myofascia. I'm just tractioning a space by maintaining pressure on two masses, right? So my head mass has pressure, my ribs. As I exhale, I'm lengthening through the front and back of my throat, and then lifting my chin back up. Let's reassess. So go ahead and bring that roller aside. Go ahead and lie on your back again, palms up, arms and legs extended. And let's see if we've helped our autopilot reacquire its connection to our center of gravity. So if you're feeling like you've got more weight on your mid-rib wall, if you felt a lot of weight on your shoulder girdle, and now you're kind of feeling that nice relaxed sense of the mid-ribs, that's great. It's a great map for you. If the arch of your back feels open, but less tense and lifted, it just feels like a nice natural curve. I kind of feel like my low back curve and my neck curve are about the same size now. If your butt cheeks have settled to the ground or the back of thighs have settled to the floor, all great ways to, again, just restore some of the restrictions in the body after being sick. And if you divide yourself into a left and a right half, if you feel more balanced from left to right, helping the autopilot reclaim its connection to the center of gravity, neural core is more open. This is going to help for stability and recovery. And if we turn our head left and right, if you freed up range, decreased pain, or the shoulders are more relaxed, again, all great signs we've done a really good job with our map. Now, bend your knees, roll yourself on your side, come on up to sitting. And one of the other assessments that we did was our wrist assess. So just one more time, bring your arms up in front of your chest and breathe into your back. And notice if you can breathe more into the backside of your body. If you move your wrists around, notice if the wrists feel a little more free and open, because again, neural signaling from your hands up to your skull really helps with some of the mobility that we have. Again, if you've made any changes in your wrist mobility from doing the treatment, again, hydrating throughout the entire upper body, hopefully that also helps to alleviate some tension in your upper body and most specifically your sinuses. So I hope that you guys really enjoyed that map. Thank you guys all for being part of the session today. I'm sure that our team has been answering questions. I'm going to stay on for another couple of minutes just to see if anybody pops in and asks a question. Otherwise, I'll answer questions on Instagram tomorrow or over the weekend. And remember, really important, sip some water now. And make sure if you're sick, sleep, right? We want you to rest. This is how you help your body restore, especially if you've gotten sick. I hope that you guys all enjoyed that session today. Again, if you're curious to learn more about the Melt Method, go to meltmethod.com. We have Melt On Demand. The streaming platform breaks down every technique and move so you guys can learn how to aid your body and maintain an active, healthy life. Seeing if there's any questions. Thank you guys so much for being a part of it. I see what you guys are saying. I so appreciate it. I'm so grateful that you guys were here. And a huge shout out to our Melt instructors. I had 18 Melt instructors send me their favorite Melt map for a contest that I just can't decide because there were 18 amazing Melt maps. But lots more to come. Again, thank you guys so much for being part of the Melt community, and I'll see you soon. Happy melting.